everybody, Zeke back for Live from Parts Unknown and aniRAGE. I know it's been a while since my last video, but I've had a lot of stuff going on personally. Nothing bad, actually, it's all good. I'm actually going to be moving to Jacksonville soon, which means I'm actually going to be closer to most of the Live from Parts Unknown crew. That being said, I've been really busy, so I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of blogs or vlogs or really anything else, but I've got to see Hardcore Justice last night. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because it's going to come up. I was not a huge fan of the original ECW. I know that's blasphemy, and I apologize sincerely. But it's not as good as most people remember it through their rose-colored nostalgia glasses. Did it have some unique and innovative material? Yes, it did a lot of stuff that nobody else was doing. That doesn't necessarily mean it was good, but it was unique. A lot of really good stars grew up in ECW. They got their breaks there. Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, those are the big three. Dean Malenko, there's a lot of guys that came through ECW that are huge stars now. Most of them left. And you can say all you want about them being recruited or stolen or whatever. ECW was basically a farm territory. And it didn't get national recognition and acknowledgement because of the hardcore nature of it. That turned a lot of people off. I agree that it was popular. It started the whole Attitude Era with a lot of the stuff that it was doing, but that was probably the point that was holding it back. If it was all, Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, if it was all those guys leading the charge, if that was the main event and the hardcore stuff was the side events, then maybe it was differently, but they had it the other way around. Now, I'm not doubting that people like Sabu, RVD, Taz, all those, Mick Foley when he was there, all those guys were great, and arguably still are to an extent. But it kind of goes to show that the guys who made it in ECW, the guys that were the top dogs, kind of floundered everywhere else. There's a reason for that. The only one that I can really think that truly escaped ECW and had some really good recognition while still remaining one of the top ECW guys was... My mind totally blanked. Okay. One of the main guys who actually was able to remain an ECW top guy and go on to be a top guy somewhere else was Raven. He wasn't really a top guy, but he had a really solid WCW run for the most part until basically they ignored him. But Raven was really the one that, of all the ECW guys, if I wouldn't have known about ECW, I would have known who Raven was. Everybody else you kind of learned after events acquired them. Taz, he became well known through his work with WWE. Chris Jericho through WCW and then WWE. Chris Benoit, same way. Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, all of them came up and were greats, but they made it somewhere else. Same with Steve Austin. A lot of people argue that he was, a huge reason why ECW was so great. Yeah, he came in, he did stuff that nobody else would allow him to do, but he became big somewhere else. He was a pretty decent star in WCW before he was fired. The Hollywood Blondes was really nice. Then he came into WWE as the ringmaster, and he really didn't do a whole lot when he came in over from ECW. And of course, the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick, which he kind of created and tweaked in ECW, was big. But that's like kind of the exception to the rule, because Sandman. Sabu was popular. When he's not botching, he's amazing. RVD kind of floundered for a while, but, you know, RVD is RVD. He was one of the few guys that kind of did the hardcore style, but he used hardcore in his moves as opposed to making his moves all about the hardcore. You know, he did a lot of cool stuff with the chair shots, but it wasn't all about the chair shots. Sabu to a little less extent, because he did more of the using the chairs, springboards, and stuff when it worked. But ECW, ECW isn't what everybody always craves that it was. Yes, and it was innovative. Yes, it did stuff that was never done before. But just because it's never been done before doesn't mean it's great. So I'm getting that out of the way. It's been a day since I saw Hardcore Justice, and I've been able to kind of digest what it was supposed to be. It wasn't a star-studded, epic pay-per-view event that you couldn't miss. It was a reunion show. It was a ECW alumni show. And for that, it wasn't terrible. Was it great? No. I don't think anybody can say that this was a great pay-per-view. And I've gone back and I've seen some of the matches that I missed when I came in on it yesterday. If you loved ECW, if you remember those days and you just want to be nostalgia bombed, it was entertaining for you. But outside of that type of crowd or genre of liking, it really didn't do a whole lot. I was impressed at some of the people that performed. They surprised me at what they were still able to do. Of course, I don't think they could do it on a daily basis, and I don't think they should be. I had a debate with Belle last night about people retiring, and it centered around Ric Flair, who is in TNA, and she's like, nobody should make him retire. He should retire when he wants to retire. And I'm sitting there going, he needs to stay out of the ring as much as possible. A, so he doesn't kill himself, and B, because he looks pathetic when he's in there. He doesn't look like, whoo, the man Ric Flair. He looks like an old guy trying to not be old anymore. It's just sad. But anyway, most of those guys, this needs to be this desperately needs to be their last hurrah. But then I got to thinking about it. How many ECW alumni reunion shows does there really need to be? You had Hardcore Homecoming, you had the one-night stands, you have this, you have all the different indie shows that harken back to ECW. It really gets to the point where enough's enough. You know, you have high school reunions, but you have maybe a few and then you go away. You know, big ones. And you don't go, and it's not like the high school reunion is you go to school for a day. You know, you go to meet people and talk to people and remember the old times. You don't go to relive the old times. So I think it would be nice if they did a reunion show where it was maybe tag team matches, where you had the alumni and a new guy, so you're pushing talent, as opposed to just giving them one last shot in the ring. The day before the event, I learned, because I hadn't been able to follow TNA as much as possible, or as much as I wanted to. The day before the event, I learned that it was all ECW, no TNA guys. And I went from going, this is going to be an okay pay-per-view, to going, I don't even kind of want to watch this. When I learned that it was all ECW alumni, with the exception of those that were on the roster, I lost all interest in going, I need to watch this event. I still wanted to watch it, but it wasn't like it was SummerSlam or any other TNA pay-per-view where I go, I really want to see it. It was a mistake because when they did Hardcore Homecoming, it wasn't affiliated with, it didn't take the place of a monthly pay-per-view. When they did One Night Stand, it didn't take the place, it was supplemental. I really don't think TNA should have devoted an entire pay-per-view to this. They interrupted storylines, they they had a feud that was going on between Brother Ray and Brother Devon that just went, oh, well, we'll put this on hold. They brought in all these guys, and then they had the TNA talent talking. They didn't even get to come out on stage. They just talked. I really think that was a mistake. I really think they should have had like a collaboration where you actually had ECW guys and the younger guys or the non-ECW guys who still can actually working together and paying homage to these guys rather than them getting in the ring and stumbling around for one last battle, one last night. It really got to a point where it was pathetic. Especially because they couldn't use the ECW name, and every time they started chanting ECW, they had to censor it, and they couldn't say Balls Mahoney. They just kept saying cojones, cojones. Hey, look at that today, cojones. Oh, that was so annoying. I only saw a part of that match, and he said it like 5 times, and it got old after the 3rd. It was... If I could separate myself and go into like ECW fan mode, which I don't have one, but if I could appreciate the pay-per-view. If it was a supplemental show, I wouldn't be bothered by it as much, but I really think it was a mistake. And now the impact after the pay-per-view is basically going to be what the pay-per-view should have been. A world title match. I think they're doing an X Division title match. They're doing the final match between Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money. And they're doing the AJ Styles Kurt Angle match, which is an amazing match that they're giving away on free TV. I don't know what TNA's thinking. I've got a State of TNA vlog, post, whatever I decide to do, circulating in my head. That's going to come out soon because they're really dropping the ball. They have some of the best wrestlers in the world, and they are dropping the ball in almost every conceivable way. And like, Bell is very pro TNA, Jacob is very anti TNA. I think they have great wrestling. I think everything but their wrestling is shit. They have bad booking, bad storylines, bad people running it, bad direction. You know, WWE is trying to be overly G-rated, so TNA is trying to do the exact other extreme opposite, which is like doing everything possible to like bring back the Attitude Era. Okay, the Attitude Era was popular, but it was stupid, and it turned a lot of people off after a while. It got old. It needs to be a happy balance between. Don't make it so that your finisher can't be the FU, because that's not PG. But don't make it the shitter bomber motherfucker move just because you can and you want to be edgy. I would review matches, but you know, when people hug after every match and people, you know, just kind of break kayfabe, then there's no point in it. You know, one match had them battling with toy lightsabers. What? And then the RBD Sabu match was the best match of the night, but it ended way too abruptly. Hardcore Justice was a ECW fanboy who doesn't care about reality and only remembers the good parts of ECW's wet dream. Because when you go back and look at ECW, you're only seeing the best. You're not seeing all the horrible crap that they drudged out, and there was a lot of it. And I'm not saying WCW and WWE, WWF didn't. They were doing it too. But they always seem to look at ECW through rose-colored glasses. This was mediocre at best. And I really, really hope that they're closing the page on ECW and moving on. Thankfully, SummerSlam's next week, so we can put this all behind us. Talk to you later. Zeke out.